Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following content is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. What you are about to hear is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony from the highly publicized Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported exclusively by Inner City Press. The atmosphere in the courtroom on day 7 was thick with tension, an almost tangible weight settling over everyone present as the heavy oak doors swung open and the gallery began to fill. Yet no one, not the media, not the lawyers, not even the jurors, was prepared for what happened next. The woman who entered that courtroom would instantly alter the trajectory of the trial in ways no one could have predicted. Oprah Winfrey, a figure whose name alone commands recognition across continents, a woman famously known for steering clear of public controversy despite her massive influence, calmly walked in, her poise unshaken by the frenzy outside those courtroom walls. She took her place at the witness stand, and with a composure that seemed almost rehearsed for moments of immense consequence, she looked directly into the eyes of the jury and uttered words that sent ripples through the courtroom and beyond. "He is innocent." The statement hung in the air, heavy and unexpected, a stark counterpoint to the narrative the media had relentlessly crafted, that of Diddy as a villain, a monster, a symbol of excess and alleged criminality. But Oprah presented a radically different truth, one born not from headlines or gossip but from her own lived experience, her keen intuition, and conversations she insisted had never before been made public until now. Silence fell over the gallery like a thick fog, the crowd collectively holding their breath. The entire world watched, glued to screens and radios, waiting to see how this new testimony would shake the foundations of a trial that had already captured national attention. This was not merely a dispute over one man's guilt or innocence. It was a battle over perception, belief, and the very nature of justice in the age of viral media and instantaneous judgment, and no one had anticipated Oprah's name appearing on the witness list. There had been no leaks, no rumors, no hints from any of the parties involved. Yet, moments before the court reconvened on that fateful 7th day, a low murmur rippled through the packed courtroom gallery. Security personnel subtly shifted positions, tightening their perimeter. A side door was quietly opened, and there she was. Oprah Winfrey, arguably the most recognizable and influential woman in television history, stepped in with all the grace and authority that had defined her career. She wore a tailored gray suit, her glasses resting low on her nose, a symbol of deliberate calm. Every move she made radiated the same command she had wielded for decades over living rooms across America, though this setting was starkly different. This was federal court, not a television studio, and she was not here to conduct an interview but to bear witness. The courtroom's reaction was immediate and electric. Reporters furiously began typing, the clacking of keyboards filling the room like a drumbeat. Phones buzzed discreetly under tables as messages and updates were sent out to newsrooms around the world. Even the sketch artists tasked with capturing the unfolding drama in ink turned fresh pages, preparing to immortalize a moment unlike any other in the trial's history. Diddy's legal team rose from their bench not as a formal gesture but out of sheer disbelief. Sean Combs himself looked up from his seat, mouth slightly agape, clearly stunned by the unexpected arrival and testimony of a woman of Oprah's stature. He whispered hurriedly to his lead attorney, who simply shrugged with an expression that seemed to say, "We didn't know either." The presiding judge raised a single brow but offered no objection, allowing the process to continue. The courtroom bailiff confirmed that all the necessary clearances and protocols were in place. "Miss Winfrey," the clerk announced formally, "you may take the stand." Every person in the room leaned in, sensing the gravity of the moment as Oprah approached the witness chair. She took the oath slowly, enunciating each word with deliberate care, as though each phrase carried the weight of her entire reputation and the truth she intended to reveal. The room fell into a tense silence, thick with anticipation, and then she began to speak. "I am here today," she said, "because I cannot sit quietly while a man I have known for over 20 years is being portrayed as something I do not recognize." Those words landed like a shockwave, reverberating through every corner of the courtroom. The prosecutors instinctively paused mid-note. Jurors subtly shifted in their seats, some turning their heads to catch every nuance of her tone, and the gallery was frozen in place, hanging on every syllable. Oprah continued, her voice steady but resolute. I did not come here under subpoena. I did not come here to salvage a friendship. I came here because I believe what is happening is a tragic case of misinterpretation, a public unraveling built on half-truths, whispers, and momentum. From that moment, it was clear to everyone that Oprah was not there to merely provide context or offer mild character references. She had come with a mission, to challenge the very foundation of the prosecution's case. No one, it seemed, was ready for the boldness and precision of the testimony that followed. Seated now in the witness chair, Oprah's voice retained the warmth and authority that had once soothed millions on her shows, but now it cut through the courtroom with razor-sharp clarity, slicing through the tension and uncertainty. She began with a candid acknowledgement of the gravity of the charges leveled against Sean Diddy Combs, stressing that she would never seek to diminish the pain or suffering of any alleged victim. Yet her tone swiftly shifted from compassion to unyielding resolve. I have known Mr. Combs in both public and private life, she stated plainly, and the Shah I know is not the man described in these testimonies. This declaration caused a visible ripple of discomfort among the prosecution team. One of their lead attorneys leaned over to whisper something urgently, but the judge allowed Oprah to continue, recognizing the importance of her uninterrupted testimony. Oprah recounted how she had first met Diddy at a charity fundraiser back in 1999. He was younger, flashier, full of energy and ambition. But even then, she said, his genuine heart for community service stood out. She spoke of late-night phone calls about youth mentorship programs, visits to schools in Chicago, and financial support he had quietly given to struggling artists, often anonymously with no fanfare. She painted a picture of private dinners, group retreats, and moments of raw honesty that, over the years, convinced her that Sean Combs had more heart than ego. Then she delivered a line that jolted the courtroom. If you believe every word being said about him right now, then you must believe that I have been blind for 20 years. And I assure you I have not. This was not a casual defense. It was a personal, deeply felt repudiation of the narrative that had come to define the trial. She acknowledged the allegations made by Cassie Ventura with careful precision. I watched Cassie grow up in this industry, Oprah said softly, and I believe she has endured hardship, but I do not believe Sean Combs is guilty of the crimes she has laid at his feet. The courtroom hung on her every word as she made her defense deeply personal. I have hosted survivors, I have walked beside them, I know their stories. And I also know when stories don't align with the man I have seen up close. What I am asking this court is not to ignore pain, but to separate it from presumption. The courtroom gallery remained silent, absorbed by the weight of her words, until Oprah concluded this segment with a statement that exploded across social media within seconds. We are building a monster in real time, and I am here to say, be very careful, because once we turn a man into a monster, it becomes very hard to ever see him as human again. The impact was immediate. The courtroom expected generalities, a broad character defense, a reputational softening. Oprah gave none of that. She went for specifics, with a binder of meticulously organized notes before her. She turned page after page, methodically challenging the prosecution's timeline, tone, and core narrative. She started with the 2010 Las Vegas incident, an event that had resurfaced repeatedly in testimonies throughout the trial. I was there, Oprah declared. Not at the club, but at the suite later that evening. And I can tell you with certainty, the people describing those events are leaving out important context. She described a scene of celebratory chaos. Yes, there was noise and alcohol, but no coercion, no drugs, no force. There were contracts being signed, people drinking, but no one was forced. No one was drugged. And there were at least 2 people in that room I spoke to the next day, both of whom remember things very differently than what's been said here. Her detailed recounting cast serious doubt on the prosecution's version, creating fissures in what until then had seemed a unified narrative. Then she addressed Cassie Ventura's claims, handling them with the delicate care of someone who understood both the pain of alleged victims and the complexity of the entertainment industry's realities. Cassie is brave for speaking out, Oprah said, but bravery does not equal infallibility. She recounted a 2015 phone call in which Cassie expressed frustration, not fear. I asked her plainly if she felt abused, Oprah explained. Her words were, and I quote, "I feel boxed in, but that's how it is in this industry." The courtroom echoed with those words. One of the jurors scribbled the phrase twice in hurried notes. This subtle difference between feeling trapped professionally and claiming abuse physically was critical, and Oprah emphasized its significance. Perhaps most controversially, Oprah confronted the testimonies surrounding the so-called freak-off parties, sensationalized lurid events described in media reports and trial transcripts. "I've heard about these parties. I've seen the media's framing. But I have also attended charity dinners and black tie galas hosted by Sean Combs, events that looked more like fundraising efforts than anything else," she said. She dismissed the tunnel rumors as urban legend meets internet paranoia, and urged the court to distinguish between spectacle and substantiation. In what might become the most quoted line of her entire testimony, Oprah added, "If candles and closed doors are all it takes to damn a man, then Hollywood is an open-air prison." The courtroom absorbed this sharp critique of sensationalism and the dangers of conflating rumor with evidence. Oprah's final point was about Diddy's demeanor, a complex, nuanced description of a man neither saint nor monster. "He is flawed, yes. He has ego, as all powerful men do. But I do not believe he is a trafficker. I do not believe he is a monster. I believe he is a target. And that difference matters." By the time she closed her binder, the jury was no longer seeing just a media mogul defending a mogul. They saw a woman who had done her homework, who spoke with authority and conviction, and who was willing to stand alone against a tide of public opinion. The courtroom fell into a stillness not born of a lull in proceedings but of something more profound, a shift in energy, a moment that felt almost sacred, reflective, sharp, and unapologetically confrontational. After addressing the allegations head-on, Oprah pivoted to what she claimed was the invisible hand influencing the entire case from outside the courtroom walls, the media itself. Never one to shy away from discussing the press, Oprah spoke carefully but pointedly. "I have spent my life in front of cameras, on newsstands, and under headlines. I know the power of a narrative and how quickly that narrative can become a weapon." She looked directly at the jury. "And I believe that is what's happening here." She described the public takedown of Diddy not as a measured pursuit of justice but as an accelerated spectacle fueled by algorithms, hashtags, and rage-driven engagement. She referenced the hundreds of viral clips already circulating, many stripped of trial context, painting Diddy guilty before a single verdict had been considered. "When did our culture decide that a trending topic was more credible than a sworn testimony?" she asked. The prosecution shifted uncomfortably in their seats, acutely aware of how powerful and damaging this argument could be. Holding up a folder filled with printed tweets and inflammatory headlines, Oprah pointed out, "Look at these. Diddy the Predator. Music mogul or monster? Cancel Combs. This isn't reporting, it's sentencing." She noted that many outlets publishing accusatory stories were the same ones that had once celebrated Diddy's achievements, crowning him king in the early 2000s and now burning him at the stake in the 2020s. She framed this as a cultural convenience, a pendulum swing of public favor and scorn. When it suits the moment, people with power are lifted. When it suits the momentum, they're torn down. The court murmured, and at least 2 jurors nodded in subtle agreement. Oprah referenced her own experience with media distortion. "I have seen headlines twist my words, stories spun into lies, and I've survived because I had resources to correct them. But what happens when someone like Sean, already drowning in scandal, has no way to redirect the story? It becomes the truth, not because it's right, but because it's loud." A faint smile from one of the defense attorneys acknowledged the force of this argument. Oprah was not finished. "I am not saying every allegation is false," she said firmly. "I am saying that justice cannot be handed down by clickbait." Then came a moment that left the courtroom silent, almost breathless. She pulled out a printed screenshot from a well-known celebrity blog, displaying a headline claiming Diddy had a hidden bunker of victims beneath one of his homes. She read the headline aloud, then paused, letting the words sink in. That headline got 1.4 million clicks. It was based on a Reddit thread started by an anonymous user. No verification, no follow-up. And yet here we are, with a jury being asked to forget what they've seen online and judge only what they hear and see here. It was a scathing critique, not just of the media but of society's insatiable appetite for sensationalism and its dangerous effects on justice. It struck a deep chord with everyone present. Oprah closed that section of her testimony with a piercing question to the court. How can a man receive a fair trial in the age of the internet when he's already been tried and executed on every screen in America? No one had an answer. The courtroom was stunned, not only by Oprah's damning attack on the media but by the sheer courage of her stand. What came next cut even deeper. Oprah leaned forward slightly, her tone softening as she prepared to share something previously unknown, something that could reshape the entire view of the trial. She recounted a phone call she received 3 months before the charges against Diddy became public. An anonymous woman, claiming to be a former friend of Cassie Ventura, had reached out to Oprah. This woman said Cassie had confided feelings of being overwhelmed, regretting certain decisions in her life, but had never alleged any physical or sexual harm at the hands of Sean Combs. The call was brief, anonymous, yet it planted a seed of doubt in Oprah's mind. I could not ignore it, she said. So, she arranged a discreet meeting with Cassie, who agreed. But the meeting was cancelled at the last minute, and Oprah never heard from her again. The courtroom held its breath, sensing the gravity of this revelation. Oprah concluded by reminding the jury that there are always many sides to every story, and that her role today was to encourage them to look beyond the headlines, to ask the questions that media frenzy and public outrage often miss. She urged them to weigh every piece of testimony carefully, balancing compassion with fairness, pain with presumption, and rumor with evidence. The judge thanked Oprah for her testimony and called a short recess. As she left the stand, cameras captured a wave of reactions: disbelief, skepticism, admiration, flooding the room and exploding across social media. Some hailed Oprah as a hero, a voice of reason cutting through the noise. Others dismissed her as a biased insider protecting a friend. But no one could deny the seismic impact of her words. The day closed with both the defense and prosecution scrambling to adjust their strategies in light of Oprah Winfrey's courtroom bombshell. The trial, far from over, had shifted irrevocably. On day 7, one truth became undeniable. The narrative had changed, and the courtroom would never be the same.